Good day, good afternoon. This is gonna be the Forex market preview for this week. And as you know, before we start, we first have to look at what we first have to look economic calendar for the week here. Looking at this week, we're also here with nothing on the dollar because my main focus is on the dollar, right? This will be 10:30 interest rates. That Tuesday, where presidential elections, okay, high impact news this week. This will be huge, especially for this whole week. College elections, so okay, and PMI as well. So Tuesday we might see some high volatility. What about Wednesday? We have final service PMI, IV PMI, crude oil inventories. Thursday we have pound here. We turned pound out lately. Bank rates, official bank rates, and we also have FOMC day here. So that will be Thursday. FOMC week. So yeah, we might see a lot of high impact news of volatility within this week. As well as Friday, change for Canadian dollar, and also have a premium consumer sentiments and the Chinese CPI. So let's look at this thing. Let's look at a checking analysis based on ICT Concepts. As always, last week we pushed the dollar, and yes, we were expecting price to push above this high and eventually to this level here, of which was 104.79. This week, guys, I am still bullish here. I am still bullish, still expecting price to push these levels. And one thing that I last week did here, let's remove this, is that let's look at this thing. This inversion fair value gap here was key for me because the previous week price pushed above it and closed above it. So this week I was simply expecting to check it, use it as an inversion fair value gap here, which means this here as an inversion fair value gap, then push higher to these levels. And it seems like we would get that exactly. And obviously, eventually for a long term, I'm still expecting price to push higher to this failure swing here. So this will be a low resistance liquidity run. So I'm still bullish on GXY. I'm expecting, at least for next week, this one of 4.79 level will be key for me. That will be my main draw on liquidity this upcoming week. So I'm expecting price to push higher to this level in this week here. So that will be the IG on GXY weekly chart. Weekly, I'm bullish for the week. Let's move down to daily chart. On the daily chart here, we have very nice price action here. We had this favorite gap filled to run higher, back down into this inversion favor. One thing I love about this inversion favorite gap here is that we also take actually into the constant encroachment of this inversion favorite gap. Okay, we checked it, we didn't close below it, the body tells the story, and we did the damage, right? We checked into it, and now it seems that we are pushing high. We're expecting price to push out to this high, and eventually this one of 4.87 there. And look at this move down here. We also checked into this daily order block here. So which means we are bullish here. Let's go down to our chart now. And this will be the last time frame I look at. In this case, we have this daily order block here. Very nice. Okay, I'm gonna remove it so I can see a bit cleaner here. Okay, in this case, remove this. We have this lows, equal lows there has been checking out liquidity grab, right? This was during NFP. Sell liquidity being checked out here, and then price displacing to the upside, and we broke above this side here. So which means we have a 4-hour market structure shift here. We can consider this one here. So we're looking for price to fit into at least this here. We have a favorite gap. For we can check into the favorite gap, then push to the upside over there. So we are bullish this upcoming week on GXY, anticipating higher prices to this high and eventually this high over here. So let's take a look at Euro USD. In this case, yes, I'm still bearish here on Euro USD. My draw on liquidity is gonna still looking at this volume balance and still looking at this failure lows here as what my main draw on liquidity. So I'm bearish in this week and expecting lower prices to this level here. So let's look at this thing. We have this weekly chart. Here we had this high down to slow, back to premium, which again liquidity here. Then we displaced lower, breaking below this level here, and now since then we've been pushing lower. So the key here is that we turned back down up into this fair value gap here. Then we push lower. So I'm still expecting a continuation to the downside to this level here. And here's something else here, and that is key for me. We pushed above like previous week's high, but we failed to close above it, indicating we should be expecting a bearish move where to this volume balance. Or maybe for this week it only as well target this relative equal lows over here. Let's go this thing on the daily chart here. Okay, daily chart will also target into a daily fair value gap here. Let me just draw some line here. This will be a daily fair value gap. We checked into which, but not so clean because we did close above it, but quickly reject off this off it that level. And let's go to 4-hour chart here and see if we can have something to start with. Let's remove this here. Very nice price action here on the 4-hour chart. Look at this. We have this equalizer. Let's checking out by sell liquidity. Then checking out here, then we push high, low to high over there, then we displace lower, a break below this low here, making it this what? A market structure shift on a 4-hour chart, and this into this was the weekly fair value gap. Remember that we checked with the fair value gap, and again we also have this order block here that seems to be checked into. We can look at the main threshold of this order B here. Look at that, the main threshold of this order block. As I'm checking to it, then we displace lower. So we're seeking for lower price. What I'm going to be anticipating in this case this week, a price will turn back up into at least to this order block before it can continue to the downside. So that's what I'll be waiting for or anticipating. And this week when you're looking at what, at Euro USD. So the whole week, bias, I'm bearish, anticipating lower prices at least to last week's low. So this is beautiful price action by the way here. Let's go to GU. The same thing. I want to start on the weekly chart. Last week I was bearish and still expecting a bearish week in this case. Okay, let's remove this here. So what am I looking for here? We have Sessa liquidity being taken out here, and again we also have SMT with Euro here because Euro didn't check out this side, but GU did obviously. So we have SMT there. So what I'm looking here, we have this high, low, high, and it is spaced lower in this case, which means this liquidity grab there, and now it's to be seeking. Look at this, we have a lot of lows there, so which means a lot of liquidity resting below this lows there. So that's why I gotta be our drawn liquidity. We are bearish again here on GBP USD. One thing that is key for me here, it is this fair value gap right now. Let me just measure this. This was a PC, percent balance and efficiency. PC, okay, we're checking to push higher than those below. Which this week we closed below it, indicating it is now supposed to be used as well as an invasion fair value gap. So I'm simply expecting price to push higher. I believe this gap here will be a break gap, right? So I'm simply expecting price to push into the invasion fair value gap, and then it can move to the downside just like this. This is gonna be my weekly idea here. Let's look at the daily chart. For the daily chart, we have this. This is the most obvious thing that you see in this case. Look at this price action from this time. We still have a break gap. We'll push lower, up into what? Order block, checked in here. Finish up here, right? Then we'll push move to that side, back up into what? Order block again. So which means in this case, again, look at this wick here. It went back up, actually back into this order block here as well. So in this case, GBP/USD, I am bearish in this one. I'm simply expecting some sort of reversal to the upside before it continues lower. You can even go down to a 4-hour chart here. I believe the very nice price action by the way here. Look at this thing on the 4-hour chart. This daily order blocks. Look at this thing here. We have this high been taken out by sell liquidity out here. Smart money pairing that should order with the price stops above this side. Let's hide this by the way. It's kind of disturbing, man. Price push high into what? Into this bearish order block on a 4-hour chart, right? Bearish OB there. We tag in very nice price action. By sell liquidity into an order block, we push lower, a high. Again, up into what? Into an order block. We displace the downside. Price turn back up into what? Into the order block again. We check into order block, right? Again. Then now we're seeking for what? We are seeking for lower prices. So where's our drawn liquidity? The most obvious one, which has to be that this low here. But eventually, where are we headed up to? Down to this level at 27.98. So I am bearish, heavily bearish on GBP/USD. I'm expecting lower prices this week or the next upcoming weeks as well. So that's gonna be GBP/USD. I'm not gonna look at USD CAD. USD CAD is heavily bullish here. Last week we were bullish as well, and yes, we got a bullish move. And our next drawn liquidity, it is still this 39.78 level. That's going to be our drawn liquidity. So the daily chart, yeah, not daily chart. Yes, we're still expecting. We don't have anything here to use for this. I'm going to just go down to our chart here. Sell side liquidity was crap here. This is what I want to focus on for our chart. Okay, guys, if you see a lot of these drawings like this, it simply means I spend a lot. There's a lot of matches. Liquidity taken out here into what? Into an order block. Did you check the main threshold here? Let me just look at the main threshold of this order block here. We know we didn't reach it, but we simply came back down to this order block. Then we push higher, broke up above high. Look at this. We have a low, high, lower low, or lower low here. Then break up above the high, which makes this this up just can't here a bullish breaker. Not the cleanest one, by the way, but yeah, it is still a breaker. So we have a breaker here. I love using breaker products way more than other products, by the way. We have pushed above this high market star shift. We came back down into the breaker, and then also have an order block here, check into it, and then push it upside. So which means in this case, we simply want to see a price return back up down into what? Into a 5-value gap before it continues higher. Where to this high here, 39.78. So a bullish USD CAD anticipating higher prices, L price to continue on its bullish trend. Let's look at Aussie. Start on daily chart here as well. On a weekly chart, so we are bearish here, and now my main problem, I'm gonna be focusing on this week over here. We had a huge week here, so that's why I even have this figure, and I divided it into quadrants. So I want to pay attention to this, at least the constant encroachment of this week here. I want to pay attention to, so which means my drawn liquidity is going to be this level right here, the 64.27 level. It's going to be key for me approaching this thing, looking at Aussie here. I am bearish. We had a bearish week, and we obviously also close below this 5-value gap here. In this case, we check it again as an inversion 5-value gap. We're seeking lower prices now. Let's look at a daily chart. Daily chart is the easiest one here. We are bearish. We simply had this here price came back up into a 5-value gap. We check into the 5-value gap. We're seeking lower prices from here on. Let's look at the 4-hour chart. This is the simplest one here. In this case, we check into the 5-value gap here. Again, which also couples as what we also have a bearish order block here, right? We have order block, and to the daily 5-value gap, we also have a 5-value gap on the 4-hour chart here. Then high, low, then we push above these levels to the constant encroachment of this week. Came back up into this week here. Let's look at the constant encroachment of this week. We check into it, seeking lower prices below this low here. Let's look at price action, beautiful price action here. If you can see it, we have a low, high, a low, higher high. Break down below this level here, we now have a new lower low, right, which makes this a market star shift. So which means this down close candle here is going to be a bearish breaker, it's gonna be a bearish breaker block here. So which means simply expecting price to check into it before it moves to the downside like this. So Aussie USD, we are bearish, expecting more prices to push lower and to our draw on liquidity or these levels over here. So yeah, it's a long way to the downside. I believe we get so many great trading opportunities on this one. Aussie, you can expect a very same thing on Q here. No need for me to go through Kiwi. So let's take a look at Nasdaq here. This will be, I'm going to be taking a look at Nasdaq and S&P 500. Last week was bullish last week. In this case, however, we still have this higher, but I'm going to approach this upcoming week here as I am bearish on this week. On this thing here. So what we have in this case, we have this range high down to slow price turn back upward into premium here. We broke above this higher, checking us, grabbing some liquidity. Let me just track this one right here. However, one thing that I'll be careful at on this case of elections week, right? So which means we might see a lot of volatility. Again, we also have this high at this top, so we'll be careful there. However, here's something I want to pay attention to. We have this high, low, high, which is placed lower, breaking up below this low. So I believe this is a market structure shift to the downside. So we are bearish, and this pushed up. In this case, this movement was simply coming back up into check into this bearish breaker here. We check the breaker again. So we also have a BC here, sorry, a CB, certain balance by side efficiency here. So which means there's a good chance of seeing price checking into this before it continues to the downside. So daily chart, I'm bearish, but I want to see price coming back up into this 5-value gap first on this upcoming week. So which means with Monday, you can push higher, and Tuesday we form the high of the week before we head lower. Let's go to 4-hour chart. Oh, beautiful. We have this high low and then a huge move to the downside. I want to see again here on 4-hour chart, still the same thing, just like on daily. I want to see price turn back up into this 5-value gap before it pushes lower. Let's get S&P 500 here. I think that's we have the same thing here. We kind of have the same thing. Oh, S&P 500, we had a bearish week here. We pushed lower and closed below, indicating this week is simply expecting a continuation to the downside. My drawn liquidity for this week here is simply going to be at this level right here. Yes, it's so close. It's going to be at this level right here. So which means we have some sort of equal lows here. Don't need for me to look at the left side because we are already at all-time highs, right? This relative equal lows there will be my drawn liquidity on a weekly chart. Let's go down to daily. So what we have here, relative equal lows of this high, low, high. In this case, this will push lower. So which means we have a bearish 5-value gap here on our daily chart. I'm simply anticipating price to push higher into this level here before it can continue to downside in this case. I'm not really aiming for much in this case. This lows there, I will see what price do when it gets to this level. But so far for now, we're simply anticipating price to push down into this equal lows here, relative equal lows, take out liquidity before it moves to its intended directions. Let's look at gold. Gold, of which is going to be my last one. By the way, we are exact, just like we are all-time high here. I have one weekly chart. We are all-time high. We have nothing on the left side, right? We have nothing. So I'm going to base my bias based on simply liquidity in this case. We simply have what let's look at last week. It pushed above the previous week's high, right? Push above the previous week's high, but we didn't close above it, which that is key. We push above the previous week's high, but we didn't close above it, indicating we should be getting some sort of move to the downside in this case. That's the first thing. The second thing that we see in this case, we've taken out all of external range liquidity. So which means this week gold may be heading down into this weekly internal range liquidity in the form of a fair value gap. So this week, bearish, at least to this level here, to this level gap. And on a daily chart here, we obviously have this. I don't like inside bars, guys. Inside days, I don't like this. I don't like the next day. Normally, I tend to do nothing until price show me a pros to me otherwise. Well, then we also have this fair value gap here. So it's possible that we might see price action push it back up into 7, potentially to these levels. If we do push above, I would really like to go short in this case. And the fact that we also have this fair value gap here, of which we use. Oh, damn! I don't think we'll push above the size there. We also had this PC, we closed below which used as an inversion here. So we're simply seeking for lower price, which to this weekly fair value gap again. We also have what liquidity to grab just below it on our way down to this level here. So I believe on gold, we are bearish this week. We should be expecting lower prices to this weekly fair value gap over here. Look at this price now. It is placed lower, creating the fair value gap here. A CB, certain balance price and efficiency. We check into it and expecting what lower price or a continuation to the downside on gold. So guys, yeah, this is gonna be my week. What I'm expecting, and this week I'm simply expecting lower price to this level, right? But yeah, guys, that's all for me on this one. I will see you on the next one. Cheers. I'm out for the day.